I'm unemployed, 23F, haven't finished college yet, still have one more class and thesis, but my mom wants me to graduate this month. I don't have any job experience, and I feel like my mom sabotaged me, knowingly or not. This will be lengthy. As the title indicates, I am 23 years old, unemployed, and have no job experience apart from assisting my mother in her store since I was about 10 or 11. My parents have been divorced since I was 9, making my mother a single parent. My father was irresponsible. He never contributed financially, did not pay the bills, and cheated on my mother as well. However, he never raised his voice at me, never physically harmed me, and always expressed pride in my accomplishments, unlike my mother. Consequently, I tended to prefer him during my childhood, which infuriated her. I also resemble my father and enjoy drawing, leading me to attend art college, possibly intensifying her resentment towards me. From elementary school, I consistently enrolled in more affordable institutions. Even my high school is a well-regarded public high school where the tuition is under USD 150 per year. For context, I am not from the United States. I outperformed many of my classmates, so my mother had high expectations regarding my academic success. Here lies the issue that makes me feel as if she undermines me, whether she is aware of it or not. I cannot attend the art-focused high school I desire. Although it is a public school with the same tuition fees, I cannot select the class program I want because it has been discontinued, which is obviously not her fault. Additionally, I am unable to participate in the extracurricular activities I have long dreamed of since middle school. The extracurricular program also includes an annual national competition that would provide valuable experience for me. My curfew is 4 p.m., now 5 p.m., while school finishes at 3 p.m., making group projects challenging. Even on weekends, I am required to assist her in the store. I cannot go to school or my friends' homes to work on group assignments. A combination of being unable to attend the school I want, the removal of my desired program, and my limited opportunities for group assignments has caused my grades to decline significantly. I went from ranking second or third in class, which was still not satisfactory for her, to dropping out of the top 10 entirely. Eventually, she allowed me to choose my major in college, and I enrolled in an art program at a university near our home in 2019. I requested permission to join the student association and took on committee roles for several campus events to gain experience and indulge my passion. Initially, she permitted it, but then became upset with me for being busy on campus. She later allowed me to join again, but became enraged once more. It was a recurring pattern. I would join events as a committee member, and halfway through, she would become irate, forcing me to quit. She let me join an art community, and after attending some events, she scolded me for failing to help my brother with his schoolwork, which occurred during the pandemic, leading me to leave the community. This cycle repeated numerous times. She also criticized my artwork multiple times, despite her aversion to drawing and her never attending any art exhibitions. All she knows is the works of the old masters and compares me to them. She would randomly express anger towards me while I was simply working on assignments. During the pandemic, my responsibilities at home increased from doing some house chores and assisting in the store on weekends to taking on all household responsibilities, except cooking. I had to help with the store nearly every day, albeit for fewer hours during the week, assist my brother with his studies, to the point where I sometimes worked on his assignments at midnight while he went to bed early, and babysit my young cousins, under 10 years old, when their mother had conflicts with their father. Remote learning was incredibly stressful. During this time, I failed 2 classes, which I have since retaken and passed one, leaving only one remaining. Over the past year and a half, my responsibilities have also included caring for my grandfather, who has developed dementia. He remains physically active but requires constant reminders to shower, help with dressing, meal preparation, and other aid. As a result, I cannot engage fully as a committee member for events, cannot obtain a proper job due to my absurd curfew and various responsibilities outside of college, and do not frequently join an art community that offers workshops or teaching opportunities. This has left me without job experience while being unemployed with only one class and my thesis left to complete. I have been working on my thesis for the past 2 semesters, and it is challenging because I cannot concentrate at home, cannot visit the library more than once every 2 weeks, and my mother continues to criticize my artwork, which affects my self-esteem. Additionally, I do not possess my own identification card. She holds onto it. If I want to do anything that requires it, such as opening a bank account, she must accompany me. Yet, she expects me to be independent, graduate soon, and secure a job while still checking my phone and judging the classes I select up until I turn 21. For comparison, my brother has always attended significantly more expensive schools than I have and does not face the same pressure to excel academically. He is currently in high school, and his tuition exceeds USD 600 per year. He is free to join school clubs and extracurricular activities of his choice and can return home later for those events. Unlike me, he is not responsible for household chores at all. He also has his own room, while I sleep in my mother's bedroom and have only a small, cramped space in our home designated as a studio. That room has flooded multiple times due to its location in front of the bathroom, near the washing machine with occasional pipe leaks, and under the rainwater drainage pipe. The floods have damaged some of my artwork. I have been promised my own room since I was 9, but it has always been just a little longer, next semester, next year, or if you receive high grades on the next exam, which I did. However, suddenly in 2018, my brother received the room. I am at a loss about what to do. I do not know how to inform her that I cannot graduate this month and will need an additional semester. I am exhausted but desperately want to graduate and leave this place as soon as possible. I suspect she will not allow me to leave, but I am uncertain. This is a rewrite because the previous one was deleted before I could post it, so I may be missing some details I wanted to convey. Edit additional details. My mother speaks more kindly to my brother. She does not seem to get upset when he raises his voice towards her. She reacts with more anger towards me when I ask her something during her bad mood than she does when discovering my brother stole money from our grandfather to buy cigarettes at the age of 14. One time, she reprimanded me simply for wanting to fry an egg after she had made vegetable soup. 30 minutes later, my brother returned from a friend's house and she sweetly asked him, "Do you want Mom to fry you an egg? Or maybe 2?" Similar incidents happen almost daily, leaving me with an uncontrollable sense of jealousy. Story 2. My boyfriend, 24M, says I 22F sometimes say things in a rude way to him, and I don't realize it. I don't know how to change the way I say something since I don't even realize I'm doing it. My boyfriend, 24 years old, male, and I, 22 years old, female, just experienced our most intense argument, and I am unsure of how to proceed. In the past, he has communicated to me that sometimes I express myself in a harsh manner without being aware of it. The first time he brought this up, approximately 8 months ago, he mentioned that I can be irritable in the morning upon waking. I essentially told him not to take it personally, as I am simply not a morning person. My tone may have sounded as though I was angry. However, it affected him deeply, and he reminded me again that although he tried to dismiss it, it impacts him. I promised to be more conscious and asked him to point it out when it happens so that I can be more mindful. He may have mentioned it a few times in the mornings, but certainly not as often as he claimed I actually did it. During our discussion about this issue again, he indicated that there are moments when I do this at random times throughout the day. I asked him if he could provide me with any specific instances, but he was unable to do so and stated that it happens frequently. I questioned why he had not been bringing it to my attention like I requested. As I write this, I am realizing I completely forgot about what he said next. He told me that he had pointed it out a few times, but I would respond with, "I'm just tired," which did not help his feelings. He felt that I would just get angry with him, so he believed it was pointless to mention it. I apologized and reiterated my request for him to point it out because when it is eventually addressed, it is well after the fact, and he cannot specify when or what I said. I feel horrible. A few nights ago, he became upset with me for asking a question that apparently I posed in a rude tone, and he replied in a rude manner. I did not believe I said anything harshly, so when he reacted that way, I was not pleased. We ended up arguing. I struggled to understand why he was upset because, from my perspective, he was the one being impolite. I told him I did not appreciate his response, and that was when he explained that he reacted that way due to how I spoke to him. I asked him to specify how I said it. He demonstrated, but from his perspective, I was the one who was rude first. I told him, I was not upset when I spoke to you, I was not angry. It was not my intention for it to come across in that manner because that was not at all how I felt. He replied, that is how it felt. I apologized for hurting him, and he apologized for his behavior. He expressed that it genuinely hurts when I speak to him in that manner, and I am completely unaware of it. I said, I am sorry. I do not mean to hurt you, but I truly have no idea what you are referring to when you say I am being rude. I do not understand why I do not hear it or what I should do about it. Now, about tonight, feel free to skip to my questions if you wish to avoid this section. I asked him if we could take a shower, but I needed to use the restroom first. After I finished and went to him so we could shower, this is what transpired. Me shower. Him, can I finish this chapter? Me, how long will that take? Him, I do not know. Me, how long will that take? Him, I do not know, not long. Me, but how long, how many pages? Him, a few. Me, how many pages? Him, I do not know, a few. It won't take that long. Me, okay. I dislike when he is vague. I prefer specific answers. I also have homework to complete. I started to walk away, then returned and inquired if you knew we were going to take a shower. Why did you start reading? Him, slams book down, I just want to read. I then walked away and returned to my homework until he came to get me, which took only a few minutes. In the shower, I asked him if something was wrong and he replied, no. He was silent, which is unusual as we typically converse while showering. I persisted and he insisted that nothing was wrong. I said, you're being quiet, and right before we got in the shower you snapped at me. Then, him, I snapped at you because you came in, imitating me. If you knew we were going to take a shower, why did you start reading? Me, I was simply asking you a question since it seemed you were upset about wanting to finish your chapter, but knew we were going to take a shower. Him, I have a headache and didn't want to be on my phone, looking at a screen. I thought you would be in the restroom longer, and I was almost done reading. Essentially, I felt hurt that he snapped at me, confused by his assertion that nothing was wrong, and this discussion did not clarify anything. I told him that I did not appreciate his snapping at me, and he replied, okay. I then became upset because I mentioned that he snapped at me twice, and he did not apologize either time. After an hour and a half, I checked on him, and he was going to sleep. Frustrated, I slammed the door closed. He came out, and the gist of the conversation was that when I asked, if you knew we were going to take a shower, why did you start reading? He felt that I expressed it in a very rude manner. I explained that I had no idea I had said it that way and that, from my perspective, he was rude to me for no reason, which is why I was so upset. I asked him why he didn't raise the issue earlier when we were talking in the shower. He explained that he was accustomed to his parents snapping at him, and then he would retreat to his room and pretend it did not happen. Thus, he didn't think to mention it. I told him that it is unfair to me not to communicate what bothers him, especially in this instance. I have no idea that I have upset him, so how can I work on it? He informed me that I generally say something rude to him every day, which deeply hurts him. I told him he must communicate with me when this happens because I am unaware of what he means. He said I need to resolve this problem. We apologized to each other, but I fear my apology might not hold significance soon. I do not know what to do. I am confused by what he is describing. I love him and I believe him. However, I am not sure how to resolve this issue since I do not realize how my words come across. I do not feel upset when I express myself. I am typically in a neutral mood and say things that may seem rude, which truly distresses him. It pains me to know that I am hurting him, and I am at a loss regarding how to address it. This was our first significant argument. Normally, we managed to remain relatively calm during disagreements, but this time it escalated to our worst fight yet, and that frightens me. How can I avoid unintentionally saying things in a rude manner when I am not aware that I am doing so? Is there a method for me to become more conscious of how I phrase my words? I apologize if this is poorly articulated. To summarize, I inadvertently express things in a rude way, which upsets my boyfriend, but I am unaware of my actions. I seek advice on how to identify when I am being rude. Story 3. I, 26F, can't get a word in with my BF, 25M. How can I communicate this after letting it slide for so long? My summary: my boyfriend dominates conversations, and I tend to be very passive. He does not always allow others to contribute, and at times it feels more like he is speaking at me than with me. As I have become more self-assured, I understand this pattern needs to change because I do not feel acknowledged. I am uncertain how to discuss this moving forward, as it has been a persistent issue that we have not yet addressed. Any guidance is appreciated. My boyfriend and I have been together for 7 months. It has definitely had its challenges for various reasons, both of us struggling with mental health issues during winter and adjusting to each other. But we have persevered, and I can say that the relationship has improved significantly and is overall a positive force in my life, bringing me joy. I love my boyfriend. However, I have recently been honest with myself regarding our communication dynamic and recognized that it is not balanced. It is not solely my fault or his, but it makes me feel unheard and breeds resentment, which is unhealthy. I want to confront this for my own well-being, but also because this cannot continue with me harboring resentment over something as fundamental as communication, which is essential to a relationship. From the moment we met, my boyfriend has truly been a conversation leader. It was an issue I overlooked because I dealt with many confidence challenges, and I am accustomed to being dominated in conversations due to my social anxiety. I also appreciated other qualities about him, and this being my first relationship made it easier to dismiss my concerns. However, I have become much more self-assured and at ease in the relationship over recent months, which is why this dynamic has become glaringly apparent and impossible to ignore. Essentially, I am quite passive in conversations. I tend to be more of a listener. I struggle to talk about myself and often ask questions instead. I dislike interrupting others, so I usually remain quiet and take my time to formulate my thoughts. Furthermore, my self-esteem issues contribute to a meek and passive voice, especially when I lack confidence. I become self-conscious about what I say and hold back. This is something I am actively working to improve, but it explains why I interact better with individuals who match my conversational tempo and solicit many questions. While I can converse with anyone, it often requires a lot of effort, especially with those who are more assertive speakers. My boyfriend, on the other hand, is quite the opposite. He is very confident and loquacious. He tends to dominate conversations more than he listens, and engaging with him can often feel like a tug of war, especially when he is energetic or speaking about his interests. It frequently seems like he is vying for conversational dominance, which I tend to relinquish easily. Additionally, he struggles with the typical back and forth exchange. There is often no natural flow of questions and responses, and he rarely asks me about myself. Essentially, while we are conversing, I find it difficult to insert my thoughts because he speaks so quickly or passionately. On occasion, I might address a topic, but it can feel like he is steering the conversation toward his preferred subject. This does not happen all the time, but more often than I would like. Sometimes he speaks over me, or his dialogue seems like an unyielding force that overshadows my attempts to contribute. I honestly do not believe he does this intentionally. I do not think he cares any less about me or desires to know me less. It is likely that he is accustomed to communicating in this manner. Some of this may stem from his autism. He seems to struggle with social cues and tends to share information spontaneously, whether or not someone has inquired about it. Although it feels rude to me, I think he behaves this way with me because he is not masking and is simply expressing his natural self. However, it still causes me distress. It is not solely his fault, either. As I mentioned, I am also very passive in conversations to a fault. My boyfriend has noticed this about me too. I know this because his friends are like him, and he told me they once asked why I do not contribute much or engage in discussions, and he explained that I sometimes have difficulty expressing myself. Due to my social anxiety, I am particularly sensitive to social rejection. Being interrupted once or twice can put me into a state of shame where I begin to doubt myself, leaving me at a loss for words. In contrast, another person may feel annoyed or assert themselves more during a conversation. As I stated earlier, I have serious social anxiety. While I have made progress, it resurfaces in the presence of those who intimidate me, such as my boyfriend, especially when his intense conversation style flares up. Again, since his friends share his characteristics, I doubt he realizes I feel this way. I may mentally want my boyfriend to create space for me in a way that he is unaccustomed to because his friends do not require it. However, I do believe that he can be quite intense for the average person. I saw this when he was with my friends and noticed that a few of them appeared somewhat taken aback by his intensity and began to speak less. On good days, I can handle conversing with him, but I have not felt that way recently. With my increased depression, I find it easier to be interrupted, and I am weary of having to forcefully create space for myself during conversations. He is also dealing with depression, which makes him less attentive than usual. In any case, I am unsure of how to proceed. This is a problem I have never addressed. I am not expecting an immediate transformation. I know he will always possess this tendency to some degree, but I am trying to figure out how to approach the subject with him. This is particularly challenging for me to communicate because it touches on an insecurity that I carry. I am still learning how to express myself effectively, and this situation has been difficult because I have been overwhelmed with anger and sadness, causing it to feel as if my lips are sealed, preventing me from articulating what I need to say. Story 4. I'm Christian, 21F, and my boyfriend is Muslim, 21M. Will marriage work for us? Hello, Reddit. I am a 21-year-old Christian woman, and I have been with my boyfriend, a 21-year-old Muslim man, for nearly 4 years now. We met at the age of 17 during our senior year of high school, and we have maintained an incredibly deep and loving relationship ever since. I genuinely feel that he is both my best friend and my soulmate. We have experienced our share of challenges, like any couple, but we have matured significantly together, and I love him in a way that feels both unique and rare. I sincerely believe he is the person I am destined to be with. We do not argue frequently. I can count on one hand the number of significant disagreements we have had over the years, and we have always enjoyed a really strong emotional bond. He is the person who understands me best, who brings laughter and joy to my daily life, and who makes me feel cherished and acknowledged in a way I have never experienced before. We are incredibly close. We write each other love letters, share our aspirations and dreams, and support each other through everything life presents. He has stood by me during some very challenging times, and I have endeavored to do the same for him. We have always acknowledged that our different religions set us apart, yet, for the most part, we have never allowed it to obstruct our relationship. I am a Christian, and he is a Muslim. However, he is not particularly religious himself. His family encompasses various levels of religious observance. His mother is very devout, while the rest of his family, including his 4 brothers and 1 sister, are more secular and westernized. They identify as Muslims, but they do not actively practice their faith in their daily lives. His mother is aware of my existence, but I have not had the opportunity to meet her yet, and I recognize that this has been a challenging topic for us. Even so, he has introduced me to all of his siblings, some cousins, and we have even shared meals with his father. I never felt as if he was hiding me from his family, and it has been a gradual yet steady journey of becoming more integrated into his life. Recently, the situation has changed. I have begun contemplating marriage, and we had a very difficult conversation about our future. I raised the topic because I have been envisioning a life with him for quite some time, and the notion of starting a family has been on my mind. However, when I mentioned marriage, he revealed something that has left me feeling utterly bewildered and heartbroken. He told me that after considerable reflection, he believes he wants to marry a Muslim woman. Even though he is not particularly devout, he expressed that he would want his wife to raise their children as Muslims. He recognized that since I am Christian, it would imply our children would be brought up as Christians, and he said that this was something he could not reconcile. He believes that a relationship between us, given our differences, might lead our children to be confused about their faith, and he does not wish to place them in that position. The conversation was profoundly emotional, and we both wept considerably, something he has never done before. We sobbed for hours, and the thought of potentially separating or ending things felt like an unbearable possibility. He told me that he does not desire to break up, but he is also concerned that he might be wasting my fertile years, since I have expressed my wish to have children in the future. He fears that I may feel unfulfilled in the long run if we cannot find a way to make this work. Additionally, he mentioned that he wanted to be transparent with me and let me know that he is feeling conflicted about what our future could entail. We agreed to take 2 weeks to contemplate everything, and I have spent this time evaluating our relationship and his comments. However, I cannot shake the feeling of being lost and uncertain. Is he indicating that he cannot envision marrying me at all? Or is he simply afraid of the potential complications our differing religious backgrounds could present? I feel as if I am caught between two opposing emotions. On one hand, I love him intensely, and the idea of not being with him seems like a significant loss. Yet, on the other hand, it feels as though there is an underlying issue that we have never truly addressed: the role religion plays in our relationship. Another thought that has crossed my mind is the absence of dialogue regarding his religion until now. We have been together for nearly 4 years, and during that time, he has not genuinely discussed his faith with me. I am not familiar with Islam or how he practices it. In fact, I have never seen him pray. When we have had discussions about religion previously, they have always been brief, and he has never guided me toward exploring Islam. When I suggested the idea of us potentially exploring Christianity together, he immediately dismissed it, leaving me perplexed. He makes comments like, "Conversion isn't a significant issue," regarding my potential conversion to Islam, but when I propose the idea of him exploring Christianity, it seems he doesn't even want to entertain it. This makes me question whether he genuinely cares about making our relationship work from a religious perspective, or if he is merely saying things to placate me without any sincere effort behind them. We also discussed conversion, and I made it clear that I could not convert to Islam because I hold my faith in high regard. I do not want to pretend to be something I am not, and if I were to convert solely for the relationship, I would likely end up resenting him, which would be devastating for both of us. He concurred that forcing conversion upon either of us would not be productive, but it still leaves us with the significant question of how we can make this work in the long term. I do not want to give up on the person I love, but I am beginning to feel significant uncertainty here. I am open to addressing our differences and discovering a way to make our relationship successful, but it is challenging to determine if he is as committed to that as I am. Am I misinterpreting this situation? I do not know if I am being overly idealistic or if there are genuine, insurmountable issues that we cannot overlook. It appears that the requests he makes are superficial and lack profound significance for him, which has left me feeling rather lost and at a crossroads. Story 5. Boyfriend, 41M, has completely spiraled after I, 45F, turned down sex once and is constantly accusing me of not being affectionate enough now. My boyfriend and I have been in a relationship for just under 2 years. We have encountered some minor issues, some ironically related to him appearing to have a slightly lower physical attraction to me based on comments he made early in our relationship. However, over the past few weeks, our relationship seems to be completely unraveling after I mentioned I was not in the mood for intimacy one night 2 weeks ago. I had a long week and had traveled to an event 2 nights in a row in the city, which I feel he had been subtly making me feel guilty about choosing to attend instead of spending time with him. I just wanted to lie down and relax with him that night. I believe I have literally never declined intimacy in nearly 2 years. He immediately became passive-aggressive and strange about this, becoming curt and seemingly upset. We simply lay in bed and watched some shows for a while cuddling, but he continued to seem off. Then he asked if there was a specific reason I didn't want to do that. I reiterated that I just wasn't in the mood and was tired, but he kept pressing, insisting that it must indicate something is wrong since this has never happened in a year and a half. I assured him nothing was wrong and that everyone is simply not in the mood sometimes, but he persisted in acting oddly. He continued to insist that if this had never occurred in 1.5 years, shouldn't I be concerned since this obviously isn't normal? He made me quite uncomfortable at this point because it felt as though he was trying to manipulate me into feeling bad for declining. Again, it was literally once in 1.5 years. The night concluded with me leaving in slight awkwardness. Things appeared normal in the morning, but we did not see each other for several days due to the event I was attending each night again. A few days later, we had plans to attend the event together for the significant final night, which I had invited him to, and that we had been looking forward to for a long time. We had an hour train ride to the venue, and I was somewhat upset to find he had started drinking before I even arrived to get him, and continued to drink from a large cup he brought with him on the train to avoid having to purchase alcohol at the event. He then bought more alcohol at the bar area that was complimentary with my tickets before entering the event. While mingling there, I know many people at this event. We were talking to an older gentleman when an event photographer approached us to take our picture. We were standing at a high-top table that had a lamp at my face height. I moved over slightly to avoid it and reached out to adjust it too, but the photographer gestured that it was not necessary. I thought nothing of it. On our way out to the main event, my boyfriend suddenly accused me of moving to be closer to the older man instead of towards him, sounding somewhat jealous. I explained exactly what happened, that there was a lamp in front of me, and he seemed to accept this. By the time we entered the event, his continued drinking left him noticeably intoxicated for a substantial amount of time. Then during a break, he went outside to get more alcohol. He was agitated and hyperactive, rapidly rubbing my hand while holding it and generally distracting me from the event I was trying to focus on. But I do not believe I was behaving oddly, aside from being engrossed in the show we were there to watch. When the event concluded, we returned to the area where the bar and food had been to use the restroom. He was very hungry, and since we had missed the train and had an hour to wait, I asked him what he wanted to eat. He kept saying he didn't know and asked me where I wanted to go. I kept stating I didn't care because I didn't. I wasn't the one who hadn't eaten anything when food was available. He finally snapped at me, saying he didn't know and I should choose because he didn't know what options were there since. He isn't the one who has been here every night. This really irritated me, and I asked him why he was being rude to me. He then accused me again of moving toward this older gentleman for the photo, and it was evident there was no explanation he would accept, as he continued with a tirade about how I had been ignoring him and how unaffectionate I had been all night, crossing my legs away from him, etc. He kept harping on, moving closer to some guy than to me, and again mentioned my refusal of intimacy the previous weekend. I tried to defuse the situation to get him some food. More incidents occurred and resulted in a huge argument in the middle of the train station, which embarrassed me, and I stated multiple times that I would just leave and take an Uber home because I wasn't going to tolerate this anymore. This made him even angrier as he was so offended that I would abandon him like that, and emphasized that he would never do that to me, insisting that I am always his top priority in any situation. I was already crying at this point in public because he would not let go of the issue concerning my lack of affection and claimed obviously something had changed. But nothing had until he initiated all this. We returned home in silence on the train. He apologized the following morning. However, today this suddenly started all over again. We attended a weekly event together, and on the way out, he again began criticizing me for not having kissed or touched him all night, which is untrue, resulting once more in a massive argument with him refusing to listen to anything I had to say. He again referenced the random man from last week. What is happening here, and how am I supposed to respond?